about closed position starting off the dance, and how I like to have a not overly rigid formulaic start to the dance that kind of gradually builds and sets a rapport between me and my partner. We talked about just kind of the connection first, so I like to go on kind of the bottom of my follower's shoulder blade. Followers, I want kind of your upper arm to land on the outside of my forearm, then this hand comes around. The test I gave was if I do this with my right arm, that should rotate my follower back and forth. If we don't have that connection, this just flops around really uncomfortably and awkwardly. Followers, we talked about how this is the key point, which means this location will adjust based on how your leader holds. You can imagine if my arm was longer, her hand would actually be closer to my elbow. And if my arm was shorter, her hand would be closer to my shoulder or my neck. If I slide down farther, she slides down farther. If I'm up higher, she's up higher, so that we don't get this, for example. Okay? We talked about how I like to kind of mold and shape my hand to my follower's back. And then as opposed to like, this is the exact shape that I should be for every follower. And then my wrist, my frame through my arm, and my hand all kind of continue to be malleable through the dance. Same thing, followers, with your left arm. Don't hold this rigid so that we can have movement from our bodies be allowed and communicated through this space. Doesn't mean we want to like go crazy, but you can feel it if you did. As opposed to if we hold this too rigidly, closed position can be really restrictive feeling because you're on your partner's torso. If we don't allow movement through that frame. Okay? Then I like to have just kind of a non-specific sway back and forth before I go into my starter step. On the starter step, I like to step in a little bit before I send my follower away. Followers scooting back to find that connection. Make sure you get that stretch, but you're over the left foot and the left foot isn't out past you. I think that was everything. Oh, we did talk about the two different versions of how if I was going this way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, then 1 and 2 works really well. If I'm going this way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1 and 2 feels really abrupt. On that version, I usually just do a tap, then go into my anchor instead. Okay, I think that was everything for the closes. Oh, last thing was I talked about how a lot of times I actually don't start here. I tend to start here so that there's like already a little bit of movement as we come in, as opposed to like, now go, and then we went the wrong direction. Followers, I did talk about if your leader does start like this, that generally it's a good idea for you to start split weight instead, so you can feel their first movement, whichever direction it goes, versus go back to being just on your left foot. So now if I do this, feel how that first one feels really awkward for you. Okay, second class we talked about hitches, the footwork rhythm, and the lead, and how those kind of pair together, and then how they can actually be separated. So, kick, ball, change, rhythm, but then generally we do that on the ground instead, right? And notice that I'm not fully extending, I actually kind of tap down through the heel to finish. There's that double bounce of the knee back as I do the tap. We also have this option or that option, right, with that slight back and forward. That is paired with a stretch away, should come around this side for me, that I lead, right? This doesn't just stay here. Like, can't you feel that? No, right? It needs to be paired with me taking the hand away from my body to lead the stretch, then draw them in, ball change, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, versus a walk when I bring the hand with me. So the lead for a walk and the lead for a hitch are opposite directions. One of them comes forward, one of them goes away, neither of them just stay in place. Okay? Followers, we then talked about how you can actually separate the rhythm a little bit from the direction. So you can do a kickball change timing as you're going forward if you want. So you might do a kickball change rhythm while the leader leads you forward, and that's okay. You just don't want to try to stretch it back as they bring you forward. I gave you this option, the and 1 and 2, which you could do that one going forward, or you could also do that going back and then forward, so that you could use that rhythm with either of the directions. So that now we kind of understand, like, our walk is usually paired with the forward, our tap ball change is usually paired with the stretch away, but I can actually separate that out a little bit and play with the rhythms as long as I'm getting the direction. Leaders, we talked about for you how you can actually lead, not the one you're doing. If I want to, I can step back but leave my follower to stretch. Or I can do the tap but leave my follower to walk forward or do the other rhythm coming forward, right? And that can be separated for me. Sometimes I do that deliberately. For me, that's more often a reaction of I'll kind of go to do one and notice that my follower's already prepared to do the other, and that's the one I'll roll with, rather than like she tries to step back and I'm like, no, you were supposed to walk, and I do that, sorry. I'll be like, oh, okay, you wanted the hitch? That's totally fine with me, instead of me wrenching them out of it. All right, I think that was everything. Great job. Thank you guys so much. We'll do one song very